Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to the lecture number 8 for the course code Eng455. I'm your instructor Dr. Ansa Hamid. So as you know, we are studying the levels of language. We started from the phonetics and then we moved towards the phonology. In our previous lecture, what we have studied? Yes, previously we have studied phonology. Last week we started with phonology, what phonology is, when this branch of phonetics or linguistics it originated and by who were the originators. Then we were very much concerned with the different terms which are quite popular in use in phonology. These terms include like phones, phonemes, allophones, minimal pairs and free variations. That what is a phone, the smallest segment with respect to phonetics, and the phoneme, the smallest segment of a human sound with respect to phonology. Then similarly allophones are the variations of a single morpheme. Minimal pairs are the pairs of two words with respect to one phonological difference. And for lastly, we also got a bit introduction of what is free variation, that how free variations, they are helpful in creating allophones. Actually, these are the allophonic variations that help us to produce two different variations of the same sound. So this we have discussed in phonology part 1 lecture. Today's is once again the lecture is based on phonology. But what we are going to study today? Yes, with respect to phonology, our focus of study today is co-articulation effects and suprasegmental features. These two areas of phonology, they are nowadays getting popularity, and they are the two areas where there is a very much scope of researches available. So today's lecture I will start with co-articulation effects. What are the co-articulation effects? When this term it originated, and who were the people who studied these and who proposed these ideas? First of all, co-articulation effects, origin and history. The term co-articulation dates from 1930s. So once again, the era when the phonology it was emerging as a separate discipline. If you remember, in my previous lecture I told you that phonology as a subject, as a different discipline from phonetics, emerged in the midst of 19th century with Prague School and with people like Jacobson and Terbetzkoy. For this was against once again the same era, 1930s, and this term was originated by Manzerat and de Lacarde. Once again the French people they were, and they wrote a book, and that book caught popularity, and with their book emerged this definition, this idea of co-articulation. The book name is mentioned over there in French, that is Co-Articulation, Sterling and Lotta Begrenzen. Excuse me if I haven't pronounced, because I am not a French. I know English and Urdu, but not very much fluent in French. So this was the title of the book, which was published in 1930s, and exact era was 1933. So with the publication of this book, this idea of co-articulation it was introduced. Later on in 1960s, the experimental investigation of co-articulation has developed into a major area of research. Previously, in 1930s, when this idea was introduced, it was just an idea. No scientific evidence was available. But later on, in 1960s, certain experiments were performed, And with the help of these scientific procedures, we gathered the scientific knowledge about these effects. And then this term, it got popularity with respect to research, because the researchers, they try to investigate this area with a lot of interest. Now, what is this phenomena? The phenomena of co-articulation became apparent with the detailed investigation of articulatory phonetics. Co-articulation, co-articulatory effects. So, what is meant by co-articulation? Because in articulatory phonetics, with reference to articulatory phonetics, we know what is articulation, what is meant by articulatory process, and what are the organs which are involved in this articulation process. If you remember, articulation means utterances. So what is the co-articulation? Co-articulation is a double process of articulation. In simply words, you can put it like this. Now, what is articulation? How a speech sounds, they are produced, made, or articulated. How you utter different sounds, that is articulation. And when you utter two different sounds rapidly in such a way that they influence each other, then such processes, they are known as co-articulation effects, or simply co-articulation. To give you a proper definition, co-articulation is a way in which the movements of different articulators. Now, what are these articulators? If you remember, the different speech organs in our mouth, in our trachea, in all these different organs which help to articulate the different sound. So, this co-articulation in a way that how the movements of different articulators, different speech organs, they affect each other, and the ways in which preceding and following articulations of an individual articulator effects is current articulation. That the different speech organs are involved and you produce a segment of a sound, but when you are producing a combination or a triplation of different speech sounds, then the different speech sounds, they are co-articulated, because the different speech organs, they are taking part in this process. So they influence each other, they act upon each other, and as a result, a phenomena happens which is known as co-articulation. Another definition is, a standard definition of co-articulation is that process of making one sound almost at the same time as the next is called co-articulation. That when two sounds, they are articulated at the same time, it is known as co-articulation. Because when two sounds, they are articulated at the same time, what happens? The two sets of organs, speech organs are same, but for producing one sound, different speech organs are involved, and to produce another sound, different speech organs are involved. And when we collectively produce the sound, these two different sets of organs, they work together, and something happens as a result, which is known as co-articulation. So, co-articulation is production of two different speech sounds at the same time. Now, with respect to co-articulation effects, there are two most important areas which are quite which are quite actually in research. They are the assimilation and elision. That whenever this co-articulation process happens, as a result, it causes two different kinds of effects. One kind of effect of co-articulation is known as assimilation, and the second effect is known as elision. We will start with assimilation. Assimilation is a regular and frequent sound change process by which a phoneme changes to match an adjacent phoneme in a word. Now what happens that inside a word, when you are articulating different sounds together, the co-articulation effect, it combines two sounds. Actually two sounds, the two adjacent phonemes inside a word, they are co-articulated. So as a result, they affect each other. And as a result of their effect, the assimilation process, assimilation effect is created. A common example of assimilation is vowels being nasalized before the nasal sounds. Whenever we are going to produce certain nasal sounds, if a vowel is existing before a nasal sound, a phoneme with a nasal qualities, then what happens? We tend to produce that vowels with nasal effects. And why this is happening? Because the next sound is a nasal, so it is assimilating, it is affecting the process of articulation of the vowel existing or articulated before it. So this way one sound effect is affecting the other sound effect. So this process is known as assimilation. Now what is the reason? Because we are talking quickly, and for every speech phoneme, different speech organs are involved, different organs, oral and nasal areas and places are involved. So when we are producing them in rapidly, then what happens that we cannot change the shape of mouth so quickly. We cannot alter the places of articulation so quickly. So as a result, we mix them, and the resulting effect is known as assimilation. A standard definition of assimilation is when two phonemes occur in sequence and some aspects of one phoneme is taken or copied by another. The process is known as assimilation. That while producing one phoneme and quickly producing another phoneme, the production or process of two phonemes, it gets mixed, somehow mixed or somehow affected. So this process is known as, this effect is known as assimilation. Now assimilation is not of only a single type. There are different types of assimilation. Now let's study what are these different types of assimilation. The first type of assimilation is progressive assimilation. If a phoneme changes to match the preceding phoneme, it is progressive assimilation. Now progressive assimilation, it has so many names. Some people they call it a left to right assimilation or preservatory effect. Some people they call it lagging. Some people they call it lag assimilation, because what is happening that the one phoneme, it is following the preceding phoneme. It is following the previous phoneme. So this way they affect each other. And which one is affecting? The one phoneme, it is affecting the preceding phoneme. And this kind of assimilation is known as progressive assimilation. Now, for example, baking. Now, the phonemes, one phoneme, it is affected by the previous phoneme, the preceding phoneme. So this is a progressive assimilation. If a phoneme is affected by one that comes earlier in the utterance. For example, look at the word organ. Now what happens? Before the vowel a, there is sound ga. So when we try to pronounce it, the a vowel, it gets mixed up somewhere with the ga sound, with the preceding phoneme. So we try to produce organ. We try to quickly jump from ga to na sound, almost mixing the vowel as schwa sound with ga sound. So this is progressive assimilation. Another example is bacon. Once again, the a sound that is existing between ka and na, the sha sound is assimilated with ka sound preceding the phoneme, vowel phoneme. So this sort of an assimilation is known as progressive assimilation. The next type of assimilation is regressive assimilation. Progressive follows the preceding one and regressive follows the following phoneme. So if the phoneme changes to match the following phoneme, the phoneme next to it, it is known as regressive assimilation. Some people, they call it right to left assimilation, or sometimes it is known as anticipatory assimilation. So in exact word, the regressive assimilation is when a phoneme is affected by one that comes later in the sentence or in the sequence. This is called as regressive assimilation. Now what are the examples? Look at these examples. Akango. Now when I am pronouncing these sound, now what's happening, that na sound in can, it gets mixed up with the one that is coming next, with ga. So when I will try to pronounce it rapidly, I would say akango. So I am trying to assimilate the na sound with ga sound. So this sort of assimilation is regressive assimilation. Another example is let me check. Now when I would say let me check, what would happen if you closely listen to it again? Let me check. What's happening? Yes, I am almost omitting ta sound and mixing it with the next sound, that is ma, a nasal sound. So this is regressive assimilation because the ta sound, it is getting affected with the phoneme that is existing after it. So this kind of assimilation is regressive assimilation. Similarly, we are habitual to say good morning. Now we in actual speed we do not actually pronounce good morning. In rapid speed we will say good morning. Now again we are assimilating the da sound with the next preceding sound, that is following sound, that is ma sound. Good boy. Now he is a good boy. Now once again da and ba, they are assimilating. Da sound, it is getting affected by the next following sound, that is ba, and it is almost disappearing as good boy, because I am the next phoneme, it is more powerful than the previous one. So this way the regressive assimilation, it is happening. Another and the last type of assimilation is a reciprocal assimilation. As the name is making clear that not one phoneme is affecting other, but actually both phonemes affect each other. So very occasionally it happens that two sounds which are invariably adjacent, they may influence each other in a reciprocal assimilation. When such a change results in a single segment with some of the features of both components, it is known as coalescence or fusion. This notion was identified by Sanskrit grammarians as sandhi or fusion. But with respect to English, it is known as reciprocal assimilation. Now what is reciprocal assimilation? Once again, a proper definition. If there is a mutual influence between the two phonemes, it is known as reciprocal assimilation. That it is not happening just like in progressive or regressive assimilation, that one phoneme is affecting the preceding one, or one phoneme is affecting the following one. But actually the both phonemes which are adjacent to each other, they are mutually affecting each other. So as a result, the effect that we receive is known as reciprocal assimilation. Examples are like, what you want? Now what you will feel, what you want? We are actually disappearing, making the sounds to fuse with each other, to get mixed up. And as a result, you get what you want. Would you? Now, would you? What you are doing, that would and you, da sound and ja sound, you are combining them, and both are assimilating, both are affecting each other, and as a result you are getting would you. in case you need it. Has a letter come? So this way the reciprocal assimilation, it happens when two sounds, they exist with each other. I hope assimilation is quite clear right now, that assimilation is when you produce two sounds together and they affect each other in some way, either right to left or left to right or mutually, then such process or effect is known as assimilation effect as a type of co-articulation effects. Beside the assimilation, there is another type of co-articulation effect, and that is known as elision. What is elision? Elision is the omission of one or more sounds, such as a vowel, a consonant, or a whole syllable in a word or phrase, producing a result that is easier for the speaker to pronounce. Sometimes a sound may be elided for euphonic effects. So elision is different from assimilation. In assimilation, we do not omit sounds. Actually, we combine them and produce a sound. We get a mixture of two sounds, or we change one sound under the effect of the other. But in elision, actually we omit certain sounds, certain syllables. And what is the need for this elision process is actually that the native speakers or the speakers, the learners, when they try to get ease in the pronunciation of certain words or sentences, so they try to omit, and in rapid conversation it is not very much clear. If you listen to the talk between the two native speakers of English language, you sometimes find difficulty in understanding. The reason is they are habitual to assimilation and elision. But as learners of English language, we are not. So that's why this assimilation and elision, they are the important co-articulation effects of a certain language. Now, elision, once again, is omission of a sound because of certain reasons. Elision does not happen without reason, or elision doesn't mean that you can omit any sound at any time with your own will. There are certain rules for it. Now once again, I will define elision as the term describes the disappearance of sound, omission of a sound, or omission of a sound segment which would be present in the deliberate pronunciation of a word. In isolation is technically described as elision. Now reasons, as I mentioned again, the reasons is that sometimes we face difficulty in putting certain sound segments together. And in frequent speech, in the flow, we try to omit the difficult sounds because we find it difficult to combine those patterns of sound. So we try to omit certain difficult sound, and this way whatever happens is technically known as elision. Just like assimilation, elision has also so many types. The first type is word internal level, that the elision that happens inside the words at internal level, not at sentence level or phrase or clause level, rather at word level. So it is also known as internal elision. Now what happens at word level or at internal elision? The weak central vowels are elided when they occur in unaccented syllables between two consonants. For example, certain, student. Now vision, classical, nasal. Now look at the example of student. When I say sta, ta, u, da, and I have a sound and na and ta, but when I rapidly try to pronounce it, I omit the weak vowel that is between da and na sound, and I replace with a weak schwa, and then when I pronounce it, I omit weak schwa and try to pronounce it student. So totally omitting the schwa weak vowel sound. So this way, often the weak vowels at internal word level, often the weak vowels, they are omitted or they are elided. Sometimes the alveolar consonants, they are elided when they occur between two consonants. For example, if you remember alveolar consonant, the consonants which are produced with the help of alveolar ridge, they are known as alveolar consonants like ta, da. So sometimes it happens that while speaking and at a flow, we try to omit the alveolar consonants when they are existing within consonants, like handsome. We do not pronounce the da sound. The pronunciation is not handsome, rather the exact pronunciation is handsome. The da sound is omitted because the da sound, it is a weak alveolar consonant which is existing between the sounds like na and sa consonant. So it would be omitted. Similarly, if you say sandwich, I have often heard the people, they say, I have eaten a sandwich today. But the exact pronunciation is not sandwich, it is sandwich. The da sound, it is elided, it is omitted. Similarly, postpone. It is not the postpone, rather it is the word postpone. The ta alveolar consonant, it is elided by the consonants on the sides. So as a result, this process is known as the elision, and at word or internal level. Another type of elision is that happens at word boundaries level, that when word final alveolars, alveolar sound, the alveolar consonants like ta and da, they are generally omitted or they are generally elided when, what are the conditions? When they are preceded and followed by other consonants, especially when the following consonant is plosive. Again, the plosive consonant, ones that comes with the puff of air. So when these plosive consonants are there, so usually the alveolar consonants, they are elided or they are omitted. Examples, now next turn. Now this is word boundaries, this is a compound word, but when I say next turn, I am ta and ta. The ta sound is coming at the end of the next word and ta sound is coming at the beginning of the next word. So I am eliding one of them and pronouncing as next turn. Best joke. Again, best and joke. Ta sound is elided under the reaction of ja sound. Send two. Send two people inside. So send two. Da sound is elided. I am not saying send two, rather I would infrequent, I would say send to, rub down. So once again the alveolar consonant, they are elided under the influence of the consonants surrounding them, and compound words are at word boundaries level. Now with respect to my own language, because if I'm talking about certain elision and assimilation process, then it is not happening, something not happening in particular to English language. Rather, these two co-articulation effects, they happen in all languages of the world, and they are quite common in use. They are quite common they are commonly observed in almost all languages of the world. I would give you an example from Urdu language. Now, for example, the word is galat, but we are habitual to pronounce it like galat. Similarly, qadar. Now, qadar, we speak it like qadr, because we assimilate, we omit sounds. So elision and assimilation, they are not particular to any fixed language. Rather, these two co-articulatory effects, they are found in many languages of the world, and the reason behind them is that when we are trying to pronounce certain words in with flow, with accent, and when we try to omit the words that are or the sounds which are quite difficult to pronounce, so the native speakers of the language, often they omit them, often they assimilate them and produce a different pronunciation and produce different combinations which seem, at first level, as learners of those languages, they would appear to us something illogical. But if you study them in detail, you will find that the co-articulatory effects, they are not uncommon or illogical, rather they are the usual aspects of all languages. So with respect to assimilation and elision, we have studied what are the different types and what are these with respect to English language. We are done with co-articulatory effects. Now another important features of a language are the suprasegmental features. Sometimes they come under the headings of prosodic features. But what are these? Actually, these are the different features of language which actually are not the part of language, rather they are in relation with them. They actually come with them. They are the features, if I am not getting the right word, that they are the features which accompany the sounds. Yes, they are the features which accompany the actual sound productions or the speech sound, human speech sound. So such features, they are known as the suprasegmental features. So in next part of our phonology lecture, we are going to study the suprasegmental features. What are the suprasegmental features? First definition, the suprasegmental word, it denotes a feature of an utterance other than the consonantal and vocalic components. As I told you, in English language, there are vowel sound, there are consonant sound, which are the actual speech sounds. But there are certain features which accompany these sounds. These are the features which are not vocalic. These are the features which are not consonantal, but they are the suprasegmental features. Another definition, that what are the suprasegmental features? They of or relating to significant features such as stress, pitch, juncture that occur simultaneously with vowels and consonants. What happens when we pronounce, when we speak in actual settings, we pronounce these vowels and consonants with certain different features. For example, if you listen to me carefully, I said yes. Now what is happening? If you feel it, I am putting more stress on the word yes than the previous two words. So stress is a feature that is accompanying the actual speech sounds. So these such features, they are known as the suprasegmental features. With reference to suprasegmental features in linguistics, they are pertaining to or noting features of speech. They are not some certain features of speech which you can ignore. Rather, they are notable features of speech, like the pitch and length that accompany individual consonants and vowels and may extend over more than one segmental element. At one segment level, at one segmental element, these are the features which are accompanying them. You cannot ignore them. They pertain to junctural and prosodic features. Yes, sometimes the suprasegmental features, they are just like the prosodic features. What are the prosodic features? The features that create prosody of a language, something like a musical element of a language. So this was another definition of suprasegmental features. Now, when you want to study the suprasegmental features, the one element that is very much important to know is the idea of syllable. If you are not clear with what syllable is, you cannot get the knowledge of stress and intonation and different patterns accompanying the phenomena of language. So we will focus right now on the syllable. What syllable is? The word syllable, it has a Greek origin which means together. So the word syllables means something which exists together. A unit of pronunciation having one vowel sound with or without surrounding consonants forming whole or part of a word. That is known as a syllable. For example, there are 2 syllables in water, 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 2 syllables, and 3 in inferno, inferno. So 3 syllables, they are there. But sometimes they are monosyllabic words like da, because it is 1 syllable, 2 syllables, water, inferno, 3 syllables, inferno. So this way we can divide a single word into number of syllables according to the way it is pronounced, according to the combination or the rule it has. And what is the rule? That a single syllable must have a vowel plus or plus not a consonant. Mean a single vowel can also be a syllable, and if it is accompanying a consonant, then the vowel with a certain rule, with the combination with consonant, then it forms a syllable. So we are discussing what syllable is. Another idea about syllable is a syllable is a unit of sound composed of what? A central peak of sonority known as a vowel, that is usually a vowel, the consonants that cluster around their central peak. So a syllable is a segment of sound, it is a unit of sound that is uttered which has a central portion and the surrounding portion. The central portion, it is always a vowel, and the surrounding or the clustering area, that is usually made up of consonants. Together this unit, this central unit and the cluster unit part, it makes a syllable. As we have discussed what syllable is, what are the elements inside a syllable, so according to certain definitions, we can have also the parts of syllable. The beginning part, the middle part and the ending part. Just like a drama with a beginning, with a proper middle and with that ending. Similarly, a syllable can be divided into 3 parts. The first part, that is known as onset, and it is the optional part of a syllable. Optional means that without which a syllable can exist. It is not unnecessary that much important part of a consonant. A syllable. So the syllable or the beginning part or the initial part is known as the onset. Then the second part, that is known as rhyme, and it is the obligatory part of the syllable. And this obligatory or the rhyme part is the core of a syllable, consisting of a nucleus and coda. So it means initially we can have 2 parts, that the onset, the beginning, and the later part, that is rhyme. And inside that rhyme we have further 2 parts, the nucleus and coda. Now what is a nucleus? The nucleus is actually the center or peak of a syllable, that is the obligatory part of the syllable, and this central segment of a syllable is comprised of coda and closing segment. Coda is a termination and closing segment of a syllable is the second part. So in all, a syllable has 3 positions: the nucleus, the onset and the coda. Onset, the beginning part, nucleus, the central part, and the coda, the termination part. Together a nucleus, an onset and a coda, they make a syllable. So altogether 3 positions within a syllable, they define a syllable. Now what are the things that are there at these places? So the next we will discuss them. A syllable is a unit of sound Before discussing what is a coda and what is peak, we must know that the syllable is a unit of sound, and therefore we should look at the phonetic transcription of words and not their orthographic representation. What is orthographic representation? Do you have an idea? Yes? Good. Orthographic representation is about the written form of language. Orthography, if you know, orthography is an art of writing a language. So orthographic representation, it is made up of the alphabets. For example, if I write a word bit, so now this is B-I-T. It is an orthographical representation with 3 alphabets, B, I and T. But at the phonetic level, it is comprised of 3 phonemes, that is 3 sounds, ba, e and ta. So this phonetic transcription is different from orthographic transcription. If you take the example of the word sugar. Now sugar, it at orthographic level, it has the alphabets like S-U-G-A-R. That makes the word sugar. Now S is representing the, at orthographic level, it is S sound, S alphabet, but at phonetic level, it is sh sound. So this way the phonetic pronunciation is somehow different from the alphabetic orthographical level of representation. So while considering this concept of syllable, we should be very much clear that what is difference between phonetic representation and orthographic representation, as well as that this phenomena of syllable is only and only exist in relation with phonetic representation, because we can divide a certain word into syllables according to its phonetic representation and not at all at orthographic representation. So this point is important to remember, that orthographic level is not of very much importance when we are dividing certain words into syllables. Now, as I told you that phonetic representation is important for phonetically dividing a syllable. So phonetically a syllable is said to be consist of a center. If as I have mentioned before, that a syllable has 3 positions: the onset, beginning part, the peak part, the middle one, and then the coda, that is the ending or the termination part. So a syllable has a center, which is the most important part of a syllable, and which has little or no obstruction to the flow of air, and which sounds comparatively loud. So there are, according to the nature of these syllables, we have different kinds of syllables. There are open syllables, there are closed syllables, there are syllables consisting of only a vowel, there are syllables where the central vowel is both preceded and followed by one or more than one consonant. So according to the nature, that what vowels are there and what consonants are there at coda position, at middle position, at the onset position. So according to these, their arrangement at these different places, these syllables are divided into different categories, and every category has a different set of pattern. And according to that arrangement, we can differentiate between different syllables. What a syllable is composed of? Definitely vowels and consonants. In English language, a syllable has all, that is vowels and consonants. And these vowel and consonants, they exist at different positions within a syllable, and then they categorize that syllables into different types. The vowels. The vowels are the obligatory elements and the consonants are the optional. So whatever positions inside the arrangement of a syllable are optional, they carry a consonant sound. Wherever all those positions which are where there is obligation, then they comprised of vowels. Like the onset is optional, so it carries a consonant. The middle P part is obligatory, so it carries a vowel. Whereas the coda, it is once again sometimes it is optional, so once again it is consonant. So a syllable composed of vowels and consonants at three places: peak, onset and coda. A vowel can be itself a syllable, because as I mentioned that vowel is an obligatory part of a syllable, so a single vowel can be a syllable. Take the example of articles a, an, the. A one vowel, and it is also a one syllable. So this way a vowel itself can be a syllable. But if this vowel is preceded or followed or clustered by consonants, they can also make different types of syllables. So now again, how many consonants they can cluster a vowel? No condition. They can be 1, 2, 3 or 4 consonants that can cluster a vowel to make a syllable. If we look at the arrangement or the positions of the different elements in a syllable, then the vowel is the central element, the peak element or the nucleus. As I mentioned before, the middle part, nucleus, the obligatory part, and a vowel takes place the position of nucleus. The consonants that precede the central vowels are called releasing consonants, while the consonants that follow the central vowel or the nucleus, they are known as arresting vowels, because they are following the vowel. They are capturing the central vowel, so they are known as arresting vowels. Whereas releasing consonants, because the vowel it is coming after them, so it means they are somehow releasing the vowel. So this way they are known as releasing vowels. So they in between nucleus, on one side onset position we have the releasing vowel consonant, and at the coda position we have the arresting vowels. So what is the structure? In English language, this is the proper structure of the syllable. That is C, 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 V, C, 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 C. At initial place, the maximum number of consonants can be 3. At final stage, coda position, the maximum number of consonants can be 4. And in between the vowel, it is the obligatory part. The consonants, as you can see, they are surrounded by the brackets, which show that they are the optional parts. A vowel can exist alone to create a syllable. So this is the maximum length for a syllable in English language. Now talking about syllables, when 2 or more consonants occur together without a vowel between them in the same syllable, such consonants are to form a consonant cluster, because the consonant, they are making a combination and they do not have a vowel in between. So all is what? The consonant. So such consonants combination, it is known as consonants cluster. And for example, look at the word text. Now if you look at the XTX, these consonants, they are making a cluster, and they have the 4 consonants that all together make a cluster consonant. Then there are another type, that when 2 or more consonants, they occur together in a word but belong to 2 different syllables. Now again, in the same word, but they are mean two different syllables. They are not part of the same syllable. Then such consonants, they are known as abutting consonants. Again, what is abutting consonant? That when the consonant, they are together, but one consonant is a part of another syllable and one consonant is part of another syllable. So these consonants, they are not having direct relationship within a single syllable. So such consonants are known as abutting consonants. For example, context. Now context made up of two syllables, con and text, and inside that con, the last syllable is, last consonant sound is na, and in the second syllable, that is text, the first consonant sound is ta. Now na and ta, they are existing together. In context, na and ta, two consonants, they are existing together, but they are the part of two different syllables. Con is the first syllable, text is second syllable. Na sound is the part of the first syllable, that is con, and ta sound is the part of the second syllable, that is text. So together they make context, and the na and ta, they have a relationship of abutting consonants. Syllabic consonant. In a syllable, a nucleus is generally a vowel. As I told you in the beginning, most of the times, almost 90 to 95%, the vowel, it takes the central position in the cluster, in the syllable, or it takes the nucleus place, and it is preceded and followed by a consonant, which are marginal elements. Because the nucleus main position is occupied by vowel, so consonant, they are the marginal elements. But there are some special cases where the consonant is the nucleus. Once again, in very rare cases, but again it happens that consonant, it takes the nucleus or the central position. For example, in the words like bottle. Now in bottle, the word ta sound, the consonant is in between. The bottle is one syllable, monosyllabic. It is having one syllable, that is bottle, bottle. So ta sound, it is containing, it is thus occupying the central nucleus position. Then kettle, again ta sound is occupying the syllabic consonant or the central position. Cotton, cotton. Now once again, the ta sound, it is occupying the central or the nucleus position. The second syllable has two sounds, both consonants, like tull, kettle, tull, though both sounds are ta and la. In second syllable, for example, in the word kettle, ta and la, both are consonants, not at all any vowel. Do not confuse that there is bottle, there is a last E, and in kettle there is a E. Once again, syllable is all about the phonetic representation, not at all about the orthographic representation. So in bottle, bot and tull, the bot is the first syllable, it has a vowel in between, but the second syllable tull, it has only two sounds, that is ta and la, and they are not having any vowel in between. So such vowels, such cases where the consonants, it occupies the central or the nucleus position, they are known as the syllabic consonants, and they are usually represented as V, not as C. Keep this thing in mind, that when there is a syllabic consonant, a consonant taking the position of nucleus, but then when you are representing it in syllabic form, you cannot say in the second syllable there is CC. Rather, you will put VC, because you will take the consonant which is acting at nucleus place would be represented with symbol V, not with the represented C. So after the syllables, that you know how we can divide according to the sounds, how we can divide words into syllables. Then another important feature, a suprasegmental feature of a language is stress. As I mentioned in the introduction, that stress is the quality when we emphasize certain sounds inside a word or inside a sentence even. That emphasize is known as the stress. So what is a stress? An emphasis given to a particular syllable or word in speech, typically through a combination of relatively greater loudness, higher pitch and longer duration. For example, I said yes. Now yes, my voice is bit louder and my pitch is bit higher, and at the same time I'm emphasizing the word yes. I said yes. So these are the features, the loudness, the high pitch, the high longer duration, these qualities and this emphasis, it creates the phenomena of stress, which is a suprasegmental feature of language. So stress with high pitch, loud voice and emphasize, a syllable pronounced more prominently. How we identify that we are stressing some certain syllable or word is that we emphasize it and it is pronounced more prominently than the other syllables in the same word. Then this word is known as stressed or accented word. For example, the same sometime it happens that we perform stress at word level and sometimes at a sentence level. At word level, the stress is on the syllable. For example, when I say a word napkin, napkin, now pa sound is more stressed, napkin. Now inside the word napkin, the pa sound is more stressed than the later part. So this way, the first syllable, that is nap, is more stressed. So this way, the syllable of inside a word, it can be stressed, it can be uttered in more prominently than the other part of the word. Whereas sometimes we often stress at word level. For example, have you received your letter? Now if you listen to it carefully, have you received your letter? Now I am not stressing all the words in my sentence, have you stressed the letter. Rather I am focusing and stressing two words over here prominently, that are received and letter. So these are the stress words. So we can stress either syllables inside words or we can stress words within the sentences. At word level, there are some more examples, like the word chapter. Now, chapter. In chapter, when we say chapter, the first part, chap, is more stressed and more clear and more loud. And as you can see, there is a comma. When you, if you are looking in a dictionary, when there are certain syllables which are stressed inside a word, they are having a dash or sometimes some type of a comma or a small line above them. If you look at the word chapter, the chap word before it has a line above it, which shows that chap, the first syllable, is stressed, whereas ter, the second syllable, is not stressed. And the second example, if you look at it, admire. Now, ad is not stressed, whereas the mire, it is more stressed syllable. So in word admire, mire is the stressed syllable. With reference to stress, we have two distinctions over here. Sometimes we have the primary kind of stress where we are more emphasizing, and sometimes we have secondary type of stress. In English, we find three kinds of syllables in terms of stress. Syllables with primary or strong stress. Syllables with secondary or weak stress. You know, this primary stress means the strong stress and the secondary stress means the weak stress. And sometimes there are syllables with no stress. if I am mentioning that this is a suprasegmental feature of a language, it does not mean at all that you have to stress any case. In any case, you need to stress the syllables. No, there are certain words where there is no concept of stress. So they are the words in English language where there is no stress. And there are certain words which have more stress. There are certain words which have low stress. So according to the nature of stress, or according to the existence of stress, we can divide the English words into three categories of words with primary stress, words with secondary stress, and words with no stress. There are 4 features that have been identified crucial in deciding stress placement. Now, how we can find out that what syllables or what words should be stressed? Actually, if you look at the dictionary, the stress words, they are marked. So somehow there are certain standards, there are certain rules on the basis of which we follow a stress pattern. It is not that according to my own choice I can stress any syllable in a word. No. In English language, there are certain rules, and by following those rules, we have to decide that which syllable inside a word should be stressed and which syllable inside a word should not be stressed. And what are those areas, and what are those factors that define it? First, the phonological structure. The phonological structure of these syllables, they often define that what words should be stressed, what syllables rather should be stressed. For example, the sequence of consonants and vowels that make up the syllables, they sometimes define that what syllable should be stressed. Secondly, the grammatical category of the words. Now, if there are verbs or nouns or adjectives, which are the words which should be more stressed? Because in English language, verbs they are more usually stressed, whereas the category of nouns and adjectives, they are less stressed. Similarly, the morphological structure of the word, that whether a word is simple or compound. If a word is simple, then we, according to phonological level, we define that which syllable should be stressed. But if the word is a compound word, then we need to look at the different areas inside that word, different syllable structure, and then we have to decide that which syllable of that word should be stressed. Now, we have certain examples of the words that are orthographically similar but differ in pronunciation in accordance to the word class to which they belong. The stress is placed, in all these words, the stress is placed on the second syllable of verb, but on the second syllables of nouns and adjective. Now, abstract, contact, contrast, perfect, fact, insult, permit, rebel, record. So by pronouncing these words, you can easily identify that which syllable should be stressed. As we are discussing the suprasegmental features of language, so another suprasegmental feature of language is intonation. Intonation is actually the rise and the fall of the pitch while saying certain words or sentences. The exact definition of intonation in linguistics is that the use of changing vocal pitch to convey grammatical information or personal attitude. Sometimes it happens to make grammatical parts of a sentence clear, or the grammatical aspects of a word clear. We make use of the fall and rise in our pitch. Or sometimes we want to convey our personal attitude, and again we make use of the rise and fall of the pitch. And such usage of this pitch is known as intonation in linguistics. Now, rise and fall of the voice in speaking, this is another definition by Oxford Dictionary, that intonation is actually the rise and fall of the voice while speaking, while uttering certain sounds. There is another definition by Merriam-Webster Dictionary, that manner of utterance, specifically the rise and fall in the pitch of the voice in speech. This is what is called intonation. So far we have discussed the syllable stress and intonation. Now we have another interesting feature, that is tone. What is tone? It is the quality of sound governed by the rate of vibrations producing it, the degree of highness or lowness of a tone. You know, if you remember the example, it is not what you said, it is how you said. So how you said, that is your tone. The way you say something makes it very different from saying something in a different tone. So tone is a very much useful way to convey your ideas, to convey your attitude, and it is a very interesting feature of a suprasegmental feature of language. Now, speech may be divided into tone units. Each tone unit is composed of a tonic syllable, that is obligatory, optional elements which precede the tonic syllable, that is pre-head and head. Head is the syllable, the tonic syllable, which is which is conveyed through this different tone, and the pre-head is before that head. And then optional elements which follow the tonic syllable and which are usually the tail. So this way the tone, it has three parts. It has the head, it has pre-head, and it has a tail. Complex tones and pitch height. There are the different terminologies. When I say fall of the pitch, fall of the tone, what does it mean? The fall means the neutral statements. When you want to do not convey certain feelings and emotions along with your statement, you want to make neutral statement, then you make use of the falling tone. Then if you want to convey certain the essence of neutral question, then you use a rising tone. And fall rise combination when you want to make certain criticism. Level, if you do not want to, if you want to convey the boredom factor, then you can use a leveled tone. So this way, by making use of these four types of tones, four levels of tone, the fall, rise, and level, by using these four ways of tone, you can convey your meaning. You can convey different meanings. Once again, it's not the matter what you said, it's the matter how you said it. So tone is how you said it. In ordinary speech, intonation tends to take place within the lower part of the speaker's pitch range. Only with strong feelings we use extra pitch height, and when we use extra pitch height, we won't call it the intonation pattern, rather we will call it the tone pattern. Now I want to make how we can use these different levels to convey different tones. Look at these examples. Now I am making use of fall. Yes, from high low tone to low tone. Yes. Now the element, the statement means somehow the neutral statement, that I'm not making any opinion, I'm not showing my feelings. But if the same way, if I make use of the rise tone, then what will happen? If I make a rise tone, yes, then a kind of questioning emerges, a kind of doubt, yes, desire to continue conversation. So the rise tone, it conveys different feelings. Then fall and rise combination. If you use a make of fall rise combination, then you can create an element of surprise. Yes, yes. So a rise and a fall. there is a rise in the, there is a fall in your tone pattern, and then there is a rise, fall and rise combination. Together they convey the feelings of surprise and skepticism. And finally, the level. If you put want, do not want to convey any feelings, and you are showing your boredom, you are showing lack of interest, you will say yes, yes. So this way it means you are, with the use of tone, you are conveying your feelings of boredom, or you are showing your lack of interest. So this way, with the help of tone, you can convey certain meanings. So this is all about tone. Recap of today's lecture. As you know, we have studied two different areas related to phonology. That were, the first one was the co-articulation effects, and in co-articulation effect we studied assimilation and elision, that how when the people they want to get a fluency, or they do not want to pronounce difficult words, how sometimes they assimilate or mix two sounds, or sometimes they omit even sounds, which is known as elision. So these two co-articulation effects, they exist in all languages. Similarly, with reference to suprasegmental features, we studied stress, intonation and tone patterns, that how these suprasegmental features, they accompany the language to convey certain meaning. At the same time, we have studied the idea of syllables. I hope all this knowledge will make you to get a better understanding on the subject of phonology. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.